Hey everyone, is Metallica the biggest metal band of all time? Why they're my favorite metal band, why I love them, and why you should too. That's what we're going to get into in this video. Anyway, thanks for watching, man. The support's been really great of late on the channel. Got a lot of new subscribers here in the last 2 or 3 days, and the interaction's been really good. And I've said this many times before on this channel. I want to make a community where we can go back and forth. Excuse me, sitting a little too close to the camera, where we can go back and forth and really, have an interacting community on this channel, and that's what I hope for. I don't pretend to know everything, and that's what I need you guys and girls to do, is to help me out. Anyway, without further ado, I've been contemplating about making this video for quite some time. I know that the marketplace is oversaturated with Metallica. Interviews and video clips and commentary and reviews and everything else, and I want to make original content, and I don't necessarily want to make a Metallica video just for clickbait, and that's not what I'm doing now. I'm doing this mainly to discuss why Metallica is my favorite band and why I think you guys should love them too. And it'll get you into a place with me where you'll know a little bit about my backstory and why I love music so much. So anyhow, all the way from Kill 'Em All to 72 Seasons, which is just a fantastic album. I loved everything they put out, with the exception of Lulu, of course. I've heard it. I understand that there may have needed to be a creative outlet for, James and Lars and the guys from Metallica and maybe Lee Reed to get together and do something like that. But I don't own that record. I don't need to spend $50 or $60 to go out and get that record if I'm just not going to listen to it. And some people may say, well, you're not a true Metallica fan because you don't own Lulu. Well, yeah, I am a true Metallica fan. I love them. But I'm just not a fan of that album. Saint Anger, got that record. Everybody knows the recording production on that album was garbage. The drums, man, oh, golly. But do love the record, all the original material. I own them all. Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, the Black Album. Load, Reload, Death Magnetic, Beyond Magnetic, Saint Anger, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, 72 Seasons, the Through the Never, S&M 1 and 2, Through the Never Blu-ray. I have S&M on Blu-ray. I mean, I got it all. I got it all. I've owned these albums many times, whether it be on cassette when that was the format to go out and grab, whether it be now on vinyl. I mean, I have 2 of their vinyl box sets, the Black Album and Justice for All. I have, obviously this. I have Hardwired to Self-Destruct on vinyl. I have Ride the Lightning on vinyl. I have, the Black Album on vinyl and Justice for All on vinyl. One thing I do want to get, and I had my hands on 2 of them yesterday, and I should have grabbed them, but money's tight, is before they disappear, I want to get all the Walmart exclusives. I heard they sound the best. They're all remastered, and they're all on colored vinyl, and I know that once they run out, they run out. But they did, what did they do? They did the Black Album, Ride the Lightning, and Justice for All, Kill 'Em All, and Master of Puppets. And I was at Walmart yesterday, and they had the green vinyl and Justice for All, and they had the Black Album one. I should have grabbed them, man, but golly, they were $30 a piece, but should have grabbed them. And I will get them. I need to get them before they sell out and go on eBay. But anyway, that's pretty long-winded. So I grew up in a small, I didn't even grow up in town. I grew up in South Alabama, 20 miles from town, nestled in the middle of cotton, chicken, and peanut farming. I went to a school that was K through 12 on one campus with 28 people in each class, 400 total people in the school K through 12. And this was in the 90s, and it's still like that today. I still have family members that go to school there. So It was pretty isolated musically. Growing up, my dad, he didn't really listen to heavy metal or metal, and my mom surely didn't listen to metal. My dad listened to bands like Kansas and Queensryche and the Black Crowes and REM. It's funny, the last time I talked to my dad, and I don't talk to him, Foo Fighters, he was Foo Fighters, and I don't talk to him very often, but the last time I talked to him, he told me that his favorite band was 21 Pilots. I mean, the guy's 70 years old. I don't know. He loves music, but was never a big fan of metal. I don't think I ever rode around with my dad and a Metallica song came on the radio and he was like, oh, check this out. And then my mom was Carly Simon, Billy Joel, Three Dogs Night, The Guess Who, bands like that. So there was no metal in my home. Not even a little bit. I think the closest thing we had was maybe AC/DC. Was probably the hardest rock music that I had in my home growing up. So what got me to my affinity with Metallica and heavy metal? And don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge heavy metal fan. I don't, you can see in the background some of my CDs. I have a lot of hard rock. And I think I'm more of hard rock, right there about to step on the line of heavy metal. I think that's where I'm at. Now, I do love some bands like, don't get me wrong, like Prong and Machine Head, Megadeth, Anthrax. I do love bands like that. But I have found that a lot of the heavier stuff that's out there, I just can't sonically get into. But anyhow, so growing up there, I was in the 5th grade, and it was right around Christmas time, and there was a Secret Santa thing going on, and this kid, Ronnie Sampson was his name. Shout out to you, Ronnie. I post these videos on Facebook. If this ever comes across your feed, man, and you click on this video, man, shout out to you, brother. Great guy. But his gift to me was 2 cassette tapes. That's what he gifted me. And obviously it was during school let out. I went home, and these 2 tapes were Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, and the Metallica 598 EP Garage Days Revisited. And just for chance, for no particular reason, I went home. My dad had a stack stereo system, with my Gen Xers know, but with the record player, the tape deck, the CD player, tower speakers, the equalizer, the whole 9. And I went home, and the Dr. Feelgood album art was a lot cooler than the 598 EP. So I don't know what made me put I had never heard anything from either one of these bands ever, but I put in that 598 EP first and was just blown away with songs like The Small Hours, Helpless, The Wait, Prince. And I remember I listened to every song on there. I was like, man, that song was awesome. Something rhythmically was agreeing with me. The guitars, the vocals, the lyrics. And at the time, I didn't know who Metallica was. I didn't know they didn't write those songs. I thought they were all original to them. I didn't care. I loved it. So I remember putting in Dr. Feelgood immediately after that. I was like, pfft. It was, it's night and day different. It's night and day, 2 complete different styles of music. And who knows where I would have been if I'd have put that Dr. Feelgood in first. Because, the Metallica 598 EP was my first impression of music, of my own music. And if I'd have put that Dr. Feelgood album in, the rest would have been history there probably. I probably would have went down the path of the Dockins, the Cinderellas, the Warrants, the White Snakes, bands like that, LA Guns, Guns N' Roses. Not that I'm knocking any of those bands. They are great in their own right. And the older I get, in life, because in my opinion, there's not a lot of good new music coming out. I find myself going backwards and picking up, some of those bands' greatest hits albums. I don't want I've got like Motley Crue, the hits, Poison's greatest hits, which Poison, shout out Poison, it's a really good band. I do have Cinderella, Nobody's Fool collection. But I remember falling in love with that 598 EP, and I'm wearing that thing out, man. I mean, I wore it out. And obviously, at that time, and I didn't know any of this, but at that time, Metallica had a whole discography already out. And and Justice for All was already out when I got that album. So I started researching, and I was like, well, do they have more music? And sure, so I went and got the Injustice for All album, and then I put that in, and man, that was it. I was hooked. Love that record. Probably my favorite Metallica record of all time, just because where it stands for me symbolically. And then, of course, going back and listening to Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All, there was something about them. There was something about Metallica in the way that their music theory and the way they built their music to take you on a journey that I just fell in love with. It felt like they were making music to tell a story. And I'm still big on that today. One of my favorite bands of all time is also Our Lady Peace, and I love them because they tell a story with their music. So another reason why I guess I fell in love with Metallica so much is, to get a little personal, I didn't grow up in the best of households. I grew up poor, like I said, in South Alabama, and there was a lot of domestic stuff going on at the house between my mother and my father. A lot of fighting, a lot of police calls, and this was daily. And I remember when I did get a hold of that copy of Injustice for All, I could go in my room and I could put my big wraparound headphones on and crank that bad boy up, and I couldn't hear my parents fighting. I couldn't hear the screaming. I couldn't hear the knock on the door from the police department, because I was in my room, man, just laid back with my eyes closed, listening to Injustice for All and letting it take me on that journey that I needed to go on. I could relate to the music. The music sounded angry to me. The lyrics were angry to me. I mean, Dear Mother, Dear Father was on that album, and for what I was going through at the time, I mean, not Dear Mother, Dear Father, sorry, Dyer's Eve was on that album, and for what I was going through at the time, that's what I needed to hear. And of course, Blackened and songs like that, and they were my escape. And they say that heavy metal is angry music for happy people, and I truly believe that. And I found it very therapeutic for me. I could listen to bands like Metallica or bands like Pantera and take out my aggression with screaming along to the music and screaming along to the lyrics and cranking it up and just letting out my anger and my frustration that way, instead of letting it out on other people, And I think music does that for a lot of people. I think if you're feeling sad, there are certain artists and albums that you could pick up and listen to that will help you go through that. If you're angry, there's certain music and artists that you can listen to. If you're happy, if you're lonely, I mean, music just does that for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people. And that's kind of how, I'm not just a person that just listens to music just to listen to music. Maybe now I do, but then, no, man, music was my escape. And why I never learned to play an instrument, I'll never know. Never too late, it's never too late. But anyhow, I just fell in love with the Injustice for All record. And then I'd say that for about a year, man, every night that I would go to bed, I'd put on Ride the Lightning. And there's, I had it on cassette, so I'd be laying in bed with my wraparound headphones on, and I always have to get up halfway through the album and flip that thing over. But that was great because at the end of that album was the Call of Cthulhu, and there's a wind that blew through that whole track on that album, and it would just put me to sleep. And the rhythms the rhythm guitar of those Metallica early Metallica records would just put me to sleep, and it would just get me there, man. It would just get me there, and I could relate to it so much. And I would recommend, if you've never heard, if you're a younger audience and this video comes across your feed, if you have a copy, or if you haven't heard Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets or Injustice for All, I would recommend that you get a big set of headphones. Maybe it's Beats wireless headphones today. For me, it was the big wraparound, corded headphones that you plug in with the headphone jack. There's always stuff in the music that I feel like you can't really fully hear unless you have those big headphones on. So, going further in my journey with Metallica, then the Black Album came out. And I remember when the Black Album came out, I remember hearing Enter Sandman on the radio. And, I heard it on the radio and I was like, that is completely different from anything else I'd heard from Metallica. And so I went out, and I'll never forget this. And by the way, growing up in South Alabama, hard rock and heavy metal was hard to come by. I mean, I grew up, like I said, in a small town in a farm, so it was all Southern rock or George Strait or Alan Jackson, bands like that. I mean, we had to go a long way to find a record store to get where there was an eclectic collection of music, where, if you went to the local Walmart, it was 98% country and then a couple of maybe AC/DC or Leonard Skinner albums or something like that. But I remember wanting to get the Black Album because I'd only heard Enter Sandman. I'm a huge Metallica fan at this point in my life. And me and my cousin went to the record store, and I remember he picked up, and took me like a year to get the Black Album. I don't know why, but he picked up In Utero from Nirvana, and I picked up the Black Album. And I went home and I put that in, and it was different sounding. It sounded a lot more scooped out and a bigger production. Sonically, it sounded great. But I noticed that we weren't going on the journeys that we were going on with, songs like The Four Horsemen and songs like Call of Cthulhu or Orion or Disposable Heroes or Leopard Messiah or even Blackened or Injustice for All. That wasn't on that track, on that album. But I still liked it. The deeper tracks from that album, songs like Of Wolf and Man and Don't Tread on Me and Struggle Within, My Friend of Misery. These were the songs that were on the Black Album that I really enjoyed. Going forward, Load came out, and I remember hearing Until It Sleeps, and I was like, golly, that sounds completely different from the Black Album. But the first time I heard Until It Sleeps was on MTV. I saw the music video for Until It Sleeps, and I was like, well, that's different. Are they going in a grungy era? Are they going into more grunge or what? But I gotta be honest, I enjoyed Load and Reload more than I did the Black Album, because I felt like we were going back on the journey again with the Metallica songs. Not every song, but I felt like they sprinkled some of that in. I felt like they were kind of going back to maybe some Injustice for All stuff, not sonically, but in the way that they composed their songs on that, with songs like The Outlaw Torn and songs like Fixer and Bleeding Me and songs like Love, Load and Reload. If you haven't given Load and Reload a listen again, start to finish, go back and give it a listen, man. Just a great album. But really love Load and Reload. And at the time when Load and Reload came out, I was 16, 17 years old, and I was always in the car, driving around, and I wore that out. I mean, what was I wearing out when I was 16, 17 years old musically? Probably Alice in Chains, Dirt, Load, Reload, Presidents of the United States of America album, probably Bush, Razorblade Suitcase. Sponge, Our Lady Peace, Clumsy. These are songs and albums that I was listening to at the time. But there was no doubt that Metallica had the lasting impression on me, and there was no doubt that it was always Metallica that I would always, you know, go back to. Just like Metallica when Saint Anger came out, just like them, myself were in a transitional period. I myself was in a transitional period in my life, and I thought that album was very raw, emotionally raw, sonically raw, and I was raw. So songs like Shoot Me Again, and songs like Sweet Amber, and songs like Saint Anger, man, even to this day, if something has made me mad and I need to go to a go-to song, out of everything in my discography, out of everything that I have, you know, CD-wise, cassette-wise, or vinyl-wise, if I need to go pop in something to help me belt that out so I can have some release, Saint Anger, man. Every time I get done screaming along to Saint Anger, I always feel a little bit better. You know, tumultuous time in Metallica's history, you know, obviously, you know, and I do want to go back and say that, you know, I didn't know that when I got that such an epic gift from Ronnie Sampson from that Garage Days 598 EP, I didn't know that Jason Newsted wasn't Metallica's original bassist. How would I know? It was probably 3 or 4 years later when I started getting more into the history of my favorite band that I figured out, you know, that Cliff Burton had died in a bus crash and all that other stuff. So Newsted, as far as new content and new music went, Newsted was my guy. He was one of the 4 members of Metallica, and he was forever going to be a member of Metallica as far as I ever thought. So I was really devastated. Like much of you older people that are older than me were when probably Cliff Burton died. But I was really devastated when Newsted quit the band. And so when, you know, Saint Anger came out, I was like, ugh. But then we got Death Magnetic. I'm sorry. Loved it. I was also, when it always seems like every time Metallica come out with a new album, I was in a major transition period in my life, whether it was good or bad. And I always feel like through the decades, there's an album that I can pick up from Metallica that can take me back to that time in my life and where I was at, you know, periodically. And Death Magnetic was yet another album where I didn't know what direction I was going to go in life. I really didn't have any traction in life. I was at a halfway house at the time, trying to gain a foothold into the world that I was living in. And I remember when Death Magnetic came out, I had what was I listening to music on at the time? Oh, I had a PSP, a PlayStation Pocket, and I was able to download that album onto my PSP, and there was a lake that was about a mile loop that went around the halfway house I was living at, and I could put in my earbuds and listen to Death Magnetic, and I wore that thing out. And it's another album that I fell in love with. Songs like All Nightmare Long and The Unforgiven 3 and Suicide Redemption and Judas Kiss and Broken Beat and Scarred. I can really relate to Broken Beat and Scarred. So once again, for me, Metallica touched my heartstrings and put out an album that I could relate to and that I needed to hear. So good on them. And man, at this point, I thought that these guys were, you know, and I still believe this to this day, that they're never going to stop. And I know, honestly, I know that eventually they're going to have to stop. But man, what a sad day that's going to be. Hardwired to Self-Destruct came out in, 2016. Really loved the way that they released that album with a new music video every single day until we got them all. Really enjoyed that album. Felt like that album was 2 albums, you know, like 2 completely separate type of Metallica records with some stuff from like, you know, the title song "Hardwired to Self-Destruct" was obviously a nod to Kill 'Em All in their thrashier days, but I felt like the rest of the album was a lot of load and reload, and then we got some of their earlier, you know, Black Album and maybe some of Justice for All stuff with songs like "Spit Out the Bone," songs like that with Black Album, it's like "Dream No More," Man Unkind," and then load and reload stuff with songs like "Halo on Fire" and what's another one that was like load and reloadish on that album? "Confusion," songs like that. So enjoyed that record. Yeah, really. I was trying to think, and sorry about the just random laugh there, but I was trying to think, was I going through something when Hardwired to Self-Destruct came out that I could relate to? And no, the answer is no. But I do want to say that this shirt, and so blessed, but this shirt, actually, I got this shirt in Orlando. I was able to go see these guys in concert in Orlando in June or July of 2017 at the Hardwired to Self-Destruct tour at Camping World Stadium. So bucket list check. Can't believe it took me so long to get around to seeing them. But man, what an amazing show that was. Their stage setup was absolutely amazing. It took up the whole end of an end zone with huge 50 by 50 foot screens and fire, and only the way Metallica could do it. Really enjoyed that. I'm so blessed to have gotten to see the guys live. Really would have loved it. Really would have loved to see them on this tour, but the closest they came to me was Texas. I'm in Florida. I cannot believe they don't have a Florida date on this tour, but to their defense, they did play Welcome to Rockville in Daytona Beach last year, and like an idiot, I didn't go. So I'm sure but that's a festival though. That's a festival. That's not this tour here. And everybody's seen footage of this tour here to 72 Seasons with what they call the round on the 50-yard line. I do know a guy that lives here in Lakeland that was able to go up to their show in Detroit and watch them. Said it was amazing, and I'm sure it was. But that leads me into this album here. And funny thing was 72 Seasons. And I've watched a lot of reviews, a lot of people in the industry review this album, and it's kind of unfair when you got true metalheads that listen to bands like Cannibal Corpse and Overkill and Cradle of Filth that are reviewing Metallica and saying this isn't metal, this is probably the weakest metal album that's came out this year, and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, because they're not grindcore, they're not death metal, they're hard rock metal, man. They're Metallica. And I gotta be honest, for what it's worth, this album's fantastic. In my opinion, the best Metallica album that's came out since the Black Album. Consistently. Start to finish. 72 Seasons. Love every song on this record. Just to name a couple of my favorites. Crown of Barbed Wire. You Must Burn. There's a bass slide that Trujillo does during the middle to end of that song. It's just, you gotta catch it. It's amazing. Crown of Barbed Wire, Chasing Light, Too Far Gone, Room of Mirrors, and Inamorata could go, in my opinion, on any Metallica record, Black Album or earlier. Really. I mean, Shadows Follow, Screaming Suicide, which is a thrashy song, Lux Eterna, Sleepwalk My Life Away. Black Album maybe, with the exception of Lux Eterna, Black Album maybe more later albums, those could go on like Load and Reload or whatever. But absolutely love this record. I loved how the guys, I love the concept of the album. I love how they all grew up a little. They all grew out a little stubble and took the black and white photos of themselves. I really appreciate the fact that they're still putting out music. Just like with any Metallica record that's came out since the Black Album, as soon as this album hit, I went out and I bought it. It's on yellow vinyl. I don't know if they're all on yellow vinyl. But I got this one from Walmart. I bought this and the CD at the same time because yes, I'm old. I still buy CDs. At the same time, brought it home and just let it play. And even to this day, I mean, when I'm done with this video, I might just throw this on the turntable, put on those big wraparound headphones, and let it spin. But I love Metallica, and they deserve everything that they've gotten in their achievements throughout their history. I hope that they at least have one more great album in them, and I'm sure that they do. I know they're getting up there in age, but still, man, love everything about them. Love what they meant to me in my heart. I love the fact that they got me through all those really, really tough times when I was a kid. If it weren't for Metallica, I really don't know where I would be. And I'll buy everything they put out, with the exception of Lulu. But I have listened to it. Yeah, I really love them. And, you know, I made a promise to myself that if they come back to the Florida area in the next couple of years, I will definitely go and check them out. What are some of your favorite moments from Metallica? Please leave a comment down below. I'm interested in communicating with you guys back and forth about why do you love Metallica? Why do you not like Metallica? What are your favorite songs from the band? Whether you're a younger member of the band, whether you're an older member or a younger member of the band, a younger member to them, a younger person that's just finding Metallica, or are you an old Metallica head and you believe that after Injustice for All, they went downhill, whatever. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to interact with you folks in the comment section. If you leave a comment, I promise you that I will comment back. And I really appreciate the support that this channel's been gaining. It's not my intention to make this a music-only channel, but I was wanting to do this Metallica video for a while now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, turn the bell notifications on. I post a new video almost every single day. We'll see you next time.